Hello, wonderful people. Welcome back to Coffee Over Apples. My name's Steph. Let me know what you think of this angle and stuff, because usually when I'm filming in front of my bookshelf, I have my Canon DSLR camera and I forgot to charge the battery. So I thought, let me try it with my phone camera. Let me know what you guys think. If this is working, maybe this is better. Maybe this is easier. Who knows? We'll figure it out. But this video has been on my mind to make for so long because I haven't done a wrap-up in like 6 months. I mean, I did a manga recent reads, but like a book wrap-up I haven't done since November with my like mukbang monthly wrap-up. And so I've been really nervous about how can I do a wrap-up of all the books I've read over 6 months, because we'll be here for hours. And then I watched a video from Noelle at Noelle 7 Pages, and Noelle said in her video, well, I guess I'm just going to talk about the books that aren't in like dedicated reading vlogs or book club discussions or whatever, because we already spoke about those books. So let's talk about all the in-between books. And I was like, Noelle, you are a goddamn genius. So that is what we are going with. This is going to be a wrap-up of all the books that I've read over the past first 5 months of 2021 that are not in a dedicated reading vlog, are not in a book club hour-long video discussion, and are not getting an independent dedicated review. So that knocks out a whole bunch of books, because at this point I've read 60 books this year. And I'm also doing like specialized recent reads for manga, so I'm not going to talk about any manga here. These are just regular books that did not get a specialized video, which means that there's only 14 books that I have to talk about out of 60. Wow! Thank you, Noelle. You just saved my life because I was stressing. All right, so what are we gonna call this? I guess this is going to be a half-year wrap-up. Let's just go with that. Here we go.
It could change the world. On we go.
So these are all the books that were either 2 stars to 4 stars. Usually I do a specialized like book speed drawing book review for my favorite books. So some of these I really liked, but I don't know that I necessarily like them enough to do a reading vlog, which I didn't do while I was reading it, or to do a bookmark review for it. So without further ado, let's get started. I don't even know how to talk about some of these. That's part of the reason why I stopped doing wrap-ups, is because it takes me a long time to get my thoughts together. So there's that. All right, here we go with the first one. I'm going to talk to you about The Dangers of Smoking in Bed, which is a collection of short stories that I got off of NetGalley, and I rated this collection of short stories 3 stars. It's horror. It's written by an Argentinian author, and I liked the idea of getting short story horror collection from a Latin American author, South American author. I want more of this, and I feel like the stories were hit or miss. I know a lot of people say it's really hard to rate short stories, but I kind of just like average it out. So however many of them were good versus however many of them were bad, I rate them independently and then just, you know, add and then divide by the total. So this ended up being a middle of the road book for me. Either the stories were really well done, really scary. There's this one story that I think is gonna stick with me for quite a while because it was genuinely scary. It was this story of this mutual relationship between 2 people who find body horror erotic. That was some good stuff. That was, you know, it's a good story when you literally have to just stop reading for a little while, put it down and go, oh man, I need to take a step back, because that was good. That was some good stuff. But I only felt that way about that one story. There's probably like maybe 2 or 3 other stories in this collection that were genuinely bothersome. That actually put a little shiver down my spine, and the rest just kept missing the mark in the same way. Like, they just felt incomplete, or that the story ended before the punchline, or ended like right before the climax, and I just was like, I need one more page. Like, the climax should have been on the next page, but there wasn't a next page, so kind of just missed the mark in that aspect. So thank you so much to the publisher for letting me read this for an advanced copy. So overall, it was good. I do want to read more from this author in the future, but yeah, only if it's like that one story. Yeah. Next, I read Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. I don't know how to say that. But point is, I read this as a buddy read with Natalie over at Pastel Writer, who is also another amazing booktuber. Please go support Natalie. She deserves way more subscribers than she has. But I really liked this, but it's not an all-time favorite. Like, I'm debating as to whether I'm going to keep this or unhaul it. It might be a reread. It might not be a reread. I don't know. It's a novella. But I feel like you all lied to me, okay? If you read this and you did an independent review on it, thank you and I love you. But I don't feel like anyone really went into what this book is about. So it's hard to review this without talking about spoilers. So I guess I'll put, if you don't want to know spoilers, I'll put it on the screen when I talk about spoilers. But basically, what everyone has said is that this is a story about a woman who works in a convenience store, and she is in her late 30s, I think, and she's been working at a convenience store for a really long time. That is kind of like her entire life's goal, is just to continue working at this convenience store. She doesn't see a point in getting married. She doesn't see a point in following society's established ideas of what a career woman should be or what a woman should do with their life, which I'm all for, right? But I think it goes a lot deeper than that, and that is why I think that is just like the surface level of this, and I understand why you can't talk about this in a spoiler-free review with anything other than that. So this is what I'm about to say is kind of gonna give a lot away, hence the spoiler warning. So briefly, here's what I think. This book is about mental health, okay? Our two main characters in this story, I think, suffer from a narcissistic personality disorder. I am not a trained professional in mental health. Okay, not exactly. I am not a psychologist, but I do, because of my career, have training in mental health and how to spot different symptoms in younger individuals who might have some sort of mental disability, and then bring them to the proper places to get the support that they need. So I see a lot of things in here. Our main character does lack empathy. Our main character, who is the convenience store woman, our main character is using their observations as to how others behave in society in order to use as tools to continue living her life comfortably without being confronted by others who she really doesn't. I'm not going to say that she doesn't care about them, but she only gravitates towards individuals who provided her with some sort of like service or something that she deemed as helpful or necessary. Even the relationship with family was like, this person has provided me with something that I needed, and so that is why I'm gravitating towards actually establishing some sort of relationship with them. But our main character is not able to see a reasoning for anything other than its practicality. There is a moment in the beginning of this book where other characters, and she's reflecting on when she was younger, are showing empathy towards these animals, and she just doesn't see it as that. She sees animals as a practical use, and if it doesn't have a practical use, then why are we wasting our time and energy on it? There's another character in here, another main character, who is much more aggressive and is a bit more arrogant, but I think also lacks the ability to experience empathy, but also has these kind of flip-flop moments where they're just on this very, they're in a very self-centered rant as to what society should be acting like, and then goes through these more depressive moods of how they feel like they don't fit into society, but everything is from a very narcissistic standpoint. So if you are a psychological professional and any of this is reading any kind of way to you, please let me know what you think of this. But this book is about much more than just living in society and not having to fit the status quo. This book is really about mental health. So, does that make this person a psychopath? I do not think so. Does it make them a sociopath? Maybe. I'm not sure. But please, someone, if you know what this is, help me out. But I'm thinking about rereading this and annotating it if I can decide if I'm going to keep this or not. So, yeah, I gave this a 4 out of 5. I also read Shadows for Silence and the Force of Hell as an ebook. This is a Cosmere novella that I read as part of the Crab-Along, and I gotta say, this was my very first Brandon Sanderson, and I liked it. Now that I'm a little bit deeper into the Cosmere, I get what this was trying to do. I kind of see some connections there. It was pretty cool. It was pretty dark. For a novella, I can't really talk about it without giving too much away. I want to say, if I could say that it's set in any kind of like timeline within the Cosmere of what I've read so far, it might be around Warbreaker times. So I'm thinking it's like either I'm going to say post Warbreaker, because right now I feel like if I could set the Cosmere into a timeline of what I've read so far, it would be like Warbreaker would be more ancient, and then maybe Shadows for Silence would be after Warbreaker, and then Mistborn after that, and then like Mistborn Era 2 later on, because I know that goes into the future. But I have a feeling, even though Warbreaker is not done yet, which I'm actually going to talk about next, I gave Warbreaker a 4 out of 5 stars. I feel like Warbreaker, even though we don't have an ending for it yet, and there's supposed to be a second book coming out, that I feel like it's gonna end really dark, and is the ending of Warbreaker going to be the setup for the final empire? Maybe. See, what's making me think that Warbreaker, and I'll probably talk about this in my vlog for Hero of Ages, but what's making me think that Warbreaker might be a setup for Mistborn is the flower. There's a connection there. I'll talk about that more in my Hero of Ages vlog. I'll keep that to myself right now. But this imbalance of good and evil, and all about these like gods, I don't know, setting that up. But I really, speaking of which, really enjoyed Warbreaker. I started to annotate this, and then I just ended up like flying right through it. But this was my like first non-novella Brandon Sanderson, and I had a really good time with this. I really enjoyed it, but did not enjoy it as much as I loved Mistborn, which has a dedicated vlog for. Kind of a mess, right? I didn't start vlogging Mistborn until the end, because then I picked up Wall of Ascension and started really vlogging that. So there's another video for that. But the point is that Warbreaker, I guess, if you don't know, is in a world where we have a magic system based on colors. So there's these things called breaths, and everybody is born with a breath. there's kind of like a connection I'm finding between the Cosmeres that I've read, where it's like each human life is given a single value, and that single value can then be added to other values to create different things, or I'm giving too much away. But anyway, so there are some characters in here that I loved, but it didn't get as dark as I wanted it to, and didn't get as action-packed until like the very last 200 pages, which seems to be a trend, Brandon Sanderson. That seems to be a trend with you. It's okay with me because I really, really love a good world build, and this gives me that. This is one of those situations where our main character was 16 and I wasn't a fan. I feel like everyone in here was really young but acted really old, and I'm just like, age them up by 5 years. Make her 20. Make her 19. I don't know. Like, just, I don't know. Whereas in Mistborn, again, I keep going back to Mistborn, she was 16, but there is a reason. Here, I don't see the reason why the characters needed to be so young. It's just weird to me. And the ending of this was really, really abrupt. The ending of this, I mean, there were like 50 pages left, and I was looking at this little bit of pages and going, how the hell is he going to wrap all this up in 50 pages? What? How? And I gotta say that is what brought it down for me. Like, there was a point where it was a 4.5 and it just brought it down to a 4 because of how fast the ending was. It was just like, this, we're done. And it didn't fly. I needed another 100 pages. Either that or take some stuff out in the beginning. I don't know. But the characters were really lovable, which is great. The magic was really cool. There's also a lot of themes of slums in his stories, which I'm learning. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about this, other than Vivenna was annoying, but I get it. And I get why people love her. And I kind of like her. I just, she annoyed me. She annoyed me. And I guess she was supposed to annoy me. That is probably a really unpopular opinion. Please don't come for me, okay? But yeah, but the relationship between the love story in here, though, was adorable. Like, I love those two. I love them. Can't talk about it without giving it away. But the political intrigue was spot on, so I still really, really recommend this. If you've never read any Cosmere or Brandon Sanderson and you have any reservations, just jump right in. Just do it. I regret not having read Brandon Sanderson a lot earlier. So, that. I also read I'll Be the One, and there is a dedicated book club discussion to this, but it wasn't on my channel. I read this as the group pick for the BTS readathon, which I hosted along with a couple other amazing booktubers. So that readathon was so much fun. It was so successful. It was my first time hosting a readathon, and I loved it. I read this with Jane from Bookaholic and Lisa Marie from, I think her channel name is now With Love Lisa, or Lisa with Love, and then Nessa from Books with Nessa, and Sasha from The Redhead Reader, and we had such a good time. But I rated I'll Be the One 2 stars. I'm sorry, it wasn't it. Chief, this was not it. I expected it to do so much more, and I was highly disappointed. I understand why people like it, and I understand that this could be a very important book for young girls who need to see more fat representation, but it did not go deep enough for me. It was just so surface level, so I did not appreciate that. It was just weird. Okay, first of all, I have one qualm, all right? I am a K-pop stan, love BTS, love Blackpink, obviously. Can you see my light stick over there? But like, they're not the end-all be-all, okay? It read very much as for a K-pop fan who is 16 and just started listening to K-pop in the past year, and like BTS is it, right? We love our boys. That's not the point. But all things Hallyu and K-pop has been around for over 30 years. Like, I've been listening to K-pop and watching K-dramas since the 90s, since I was a kid. And literally, they didn't reference any of that. The only K-pop star that they mentioned who was, I'm gonna say past tense, was fat and like represented and gave some sort of fat rep and like body positivity in past tense, because since then they've lost weight, was Lehigh. Lehigh has lost a lot of weight. And I don't know if she's actually been very vocal about her struggles with her weight in the K-pop industry, but I don't think that was a solid example to give. I think that there are other K-pop stars who are more vocal about their weight in the K-pop industry, and we didn't get any of that. We didn't, like, all the credit for K-pop being where it was like, it was very BTS heavy, which I guess at the BTS readathon, that makes sense. But like, there are many other groups out there who also work hard, who like each successive group works off of the stepping stone and the hard work that the group before them did, and it takes time and generations, right, for things to gain momentum. So like, there wasn't enough K-pop in this K-pop book for me. Does that make sense? Yeah, I didn't like that. Also, the relationship between our main character and her mother, who is very conservative Korean, was not very well addressed, in my opinion. Like, I don't think it should have fully been resolved, but it just, again, very surface level. Yeah, the competition itself did not feel very high stakes to me. Like, you can predict it from the beginning, and then this whole conversation of, like, her getting fan interaction online that was both positive and negative was also very surface level. There was a scene where our character was telling her to, like, not interact with fans because she doesn't want to risk kind of getting any kind of clout, or just how you're never going to please everybody. So she's like, just don't react to any fans, even if it's positive comments, because you don't want to give any fuel to any, like, haters. And I was like, what is this? So she has an opportunity to actually, like, be an offstage hero and be an offstage role model, but she's listening to her friend's advice that she couldn't take it. I don't know. It was just weird. It didn't work. So, sorry, not sorry. Let's go into my textbooks really quickly. I'm just going to be really brief on the textbooks that I read this year, but they're still books and I still count them. One was Diversity Awareness Activities for Diversifying Your Classroom. Can we talk about the typo that is in the title? How do you have a spelling error in the title of a teacher's workbook, or just any workbook, or the title in anything that is from any publisher or any editor? Like, how did this pass? I don't know, but I gave it 2 stars because it's supposed to be about diversity awareness, and these were all just like very surface level icebreakers. No. Also, I read Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? I actually gave this 5 stars. I don't usually rate my textbooks, but I'm starting to realize that I should, because it might be helpful to some other educators out there. I gave this 5 stars because it was really in-depth on the Black experience, and the Black experience in relation to motherhood, in relation to education, and just like really going deeper than I've seen into what reverse racism is, and how wealth and class creates these boundaries and these ceilings that we're all working to dismantle. I think it was really, really good. I really recommend this. I did not get to annotate this because I had to speed read through it for my grad course, but I highly recommend this if you're looking for a nonfiction that is going to be helpful if you're an educator. I really, really suggest this. I also read, in that same vein, Racing to Class. I think I ended up giving this a 4-star. Did I? I think, yeah, I don't know if I rated this, but if I had to rate it, I'd probably give it a 4-star. It does go into similar topics as this. However, I think that this one was more specifically for teachers, and this one, if you're not a teacher, you could still get a lot of things out of this. But this one is more specifically for teachers. So what I did like about this was that it gave different scenarios or different accounts, I think from a vice principal or from a principal, stories that they witnessed from their employees about employees exercising privilege on their students, and that they didn't realize it until a post-observation debriefing, which is really, really important and not talked about enough. So if you are a teacher, or you know what, just anyone, everyone should talk about this, because it wasn't just examining white educators, it was also examining educators of color who did not understand or could not reflect that they were exercising some other kind of privilege depending on their wealth or their upbringing onto their students. It was pretty good, you know, it was pretty good, but I liked this one more than this one. So there's that. Also, I read The Dark That Dwells. Now, there is an entire book discussion review for this, and this was sent to me by the authors, and I did annotate it like crazy, but I feel really bad. This one I feel really bad about because I wanted to love it, and I gave this a 2-star. I'm not going to go into detail because there is an entire, like I said, hour-long discussion on this. I'll leave the card up or in the description somewhere so you guys can watch our sci-fi book club, the Interstellar book club, talk about this. I might pick up the second one when the second one comes out just to see where it goes, but I was very confused most of the time with this, and you know, it's good for like maybe an introduction to sci-fi if you're a heavy fantasy reader and you don't usually read sci-fi. This might be a good place to start. This might be for you, which is why this was not for me, if that makes sense. Like, I'm a very heavy, hard sci-fi reader and also a hard fantasy reader, so this just kind of like missed the mark. But again, I don't think that I am the target audience. So, intro to sci-fi and fantasy. Fantasy readers who are intro to sci-fi, pick this up. Let me know what you think. What is it about? It's in a world in 10,000 years or so, eternity in the future, and we're following some like rangers who are hired mercenaries that are on a mission, but end up finding this, there's like planets and there's magical lightning and fire throwing magic casters, and they're trying to save the world from this crazy religious zealot. And yeah, that's what I suck at this. Thus spoke Zarathustra. I feel like I have a complicated relationship with this book. I gave it a 3-star, and I was actually inclined to give it a 2-star, but I didn't like this book. But I gave it a 3-star because I get what it did during its time and why other people love it. This is the kind of book where I think if I read it 10 years ago, when I was going through a kind of time in my life where I was coming to terms with my religious beliefs and my morality, that this would have been perfect for me. But now where I am in my life, it's not for me. Most things in here were just very obvious. I don't know how to talk about this book without sounding like a prick. Or rather, that I had life experiences that taught me a lot of things from this book. I was doing this kind of as a buddy read, because I kind of suck at buddy reads, with my friend Vicky, and I started this as a physical book, and it just wasn't working as a physical book. I highly suggest the audiobook of this. because it's very story-like, but Zarathustra was just going around the world and spreading these speeches and philosophies as to like what the meaning of life is, or what people should kind of understand about their actions. And what I would have wanted more from this is just conversations between Zarathustra and the characters, because there were some chapters where it was like they weren't just having conversation to a specific audience, and we're not always getting reactions of the people who they're speaking to, but they're more just like speeches that I just didn't care for. I have been told that when Nietzsche was writing this, that they were on their way out the door, so that's pretty obvious too. I was very bored, but I understand why this was important. I feel like this is a horrible review of this book. I feel like you should probably go and read some people's really in-depth Goodreads reviews of this, because I really can't give it to you. I just kind of like put this out of my mind when I was done with it. I mean, in a nutshell, he's really trying to tell everyone that they have the ability to give themselves their purpose in life, and that man has created religion and all these idealisms in order to give themselves a thing to aspire to, but man already has the capacity to be that thing of which we are aspiring. So to find it within yourself, and I get that, and some people need that, and it was not my cup of tea, but I understand why everyone loves it, and I have nothing else to say because I fell asleep. I feel like this is, okay, no, on a real note though, I feel like this is one of those books where I was reading a lot of reviews, other people's reviews online, and they were like, if you loved it and you gave it 5 stars, everyone was like, yes, you got it. And if you didn't love it, it was like, no, you don't understand it. And that really pissed me off. Just because someone didn't enjoy a book does not mean that they didn't understand it. Can I just put that out there? Again, I say this at the risk of sounding like an arrogant fool, but I feel like the Zarathustra enthusiasts are really going to come for me with this. No, not everyone has to love this. This is not the most perfect fiction in the world. No book is ever going to be the most perfect piece of writing to ever exist. And this wasn't it for me, but just because I didn't like it does not mean that I didn't get it. So hence why I'm hesitant to write my review, because I saw quite a few people being attacked online for not liking this, and I don't want any part of that. One day we'll all be dead, and none of this will matter. I read this as a double buddy read. I read it with Rachel over at Let Me in the Library and Natalie over at Pastel Writer simultaneously, and I ended up giving this a 4. For a while it was like teetering on 3.5, but I ended up giving this a 4 because I ended up switching over to the audiobook, which is something I'm slowly getting more comfortable with. Is like, just because I have the physical book, if physical isn't doing it for me, it's okay to switch to the audiobook. So the audiobook I ended up enjoying a lot more because there are conversations here between her and her father, and so we got the dual narrators at some points, and that was really helpful. A few essays in here, and again, this is mostly about her experience of being a Indian Canadian. So we got an essay on the reflection of being an outsider, so her returning to India and participating in traditional Indian weddings, which she is coming in as a feminist, and she previously thought that her father had more feminist opinions and values, but then saw him participating in this wedding and like continuing the cycle of misogyny within her culture that she didn't appreciate. There were some really important conversations in here that I liked, and that I don't know enough about Indian weddings to really give an opinion, so this is just like based off of her writing. There was also really important conversation about rape culture so there's some like heavy triggers in here, which I thought was really well done because we don't see enough stories of women supporting women, and just like, I feel like it's become so normalized for women to just expect that when you go out into public, baby bean. It's become so normalized for women that when we go out to public to be on guard all the time, right? So whether that be just having your headphones on when you're walking down the street, or not leaving a drink by itself when you're at the bar for fear of getting roofied, like that's just part of what we live with on the daily. And there are, unfortunately, people I know that probably need to read about this, because sometimes it's like, right message, wrong messenger, right? I can say it, I can scream it from the rooftops, baby bean, what are you saying? But they need to hear it from someone else. So there's a couple people that I'd like to recommend this book to. There was a chapter in here about some sort of like internet scandal that she was on. So from what I understand, it's that she wrote an article or something about wanting more minority voices in writing, and that she seriously got attacked by straight white men and white supremacists as to like how she is wrong. But she didn't give us any of that background context. Like that was something that I had to look up or talk to my friends about, like outside of reading this. So I would have wanted more information on that. I feel like she just kind of assumed that whoever was reading this probably picked it up because of her large internet scandal and wanted to know her side of the story, but I didn't. So there's that. But this had quite a few conversations about like cultural inconsistencies, contradictories, a very unique perspective from a second-generation Indian immigrant over to the Western Hemisphere. So I do suggest this. I do think it's a good time. It's not revolutionary if you already have some feminist values, but I think that it still has some really important things to say. So I gave it a 4 out of 5. Okay, this is a really long video, but those are the books that I haven't had a chance to talk about this year, so I hope that this was helpful for you. I'm sorry that there were some spoilers in here, but I hope that you do decide to pick some of these up. If you've read any of these, let me know if you had similar thoughts, or if you think I'm an arrogant prick, then let me know that too, I guess, and I'm sorry. Please don't come for me, but I won't be mad at you if you do, because apparently I'm starting to get hate comments now. I got my first hate comment recently, and it was interesting. So I'm just expecting them to like slowly start filtering in. This is part of being a woman on the internet. Hello. So yeah, I hope you like this video. I post videos every week, and if you'd like to support me, I have a Ko-fi and a GoFundMe down in the description below. There's also information in the description about the book clubs that I run and all my co-hosts and things that I've mentioned in this video. I'll catch you next time. Bye!
What's it making, Mr. Wonka? Mr. Wonka worked the factory.
In your wildest dreams, you could not delay